Asterisk, that Sunday, the one that would be remembered forever. A single moment changed everything. A pastor, an innocent trust, and a secret no one could have imagined. But who was the one betraying them all? And how did a hidden truth shatter their world in an instant? When everyone thought everything was fine, one decision, one step, brought them dangerously close to death, and the real face of the truth was about to be revealed. Asterisk. Sunday arrived dressed in light. Sunbeams filtered through stained glass, painting the church in soft blues and reds, the kind of beauty that made people believe they were safe here. The pews filled slowly, shoes whispering against polished wood, hymns murmuring like shared secrets. At the front stood Pastor Elias, calm and radiant, his voice warm enough to gather trust without effort. To the congregation, he was certainty itself. Clara sat alone near the aisle, hands folded too tightly in her lap. She had chosen that seat on purpose. From there, she could see him clearly, every measured gesture, every practiced smile. Her heartbeat refused to match the peaceful rhythm around her. She told herself it was only nerves, only another Sunday, but her body knew better. It remembered what the church demanded she forget. Elias began his sermon about forgiveness, about hidden sins washed clean by confession. His words flowed effortlessly, each sentence shaped to soothe. Clara felt them scrape against her chest. Forgiveness, she thought, was always offered by those who never paid for their sins. She lowered her gaze, studying the fine crack in the wooden floor, tracing it like a map leading somewhere dangerous. She had not always sat alone. Once, she came here with a quiet pride, believing faith could anchor a restless life. Elias noticed her then, remembered her name, asked how she was coping. The attention felt harmless, even holy at first. Sitting there now, Clara wondered when care had become possession, when guidance had turned into something she could not name without shame. A child coughed behind her. Someone whispered, "Amen." The world continued unaware. Clara's fingers trembled, so she clasped them tighter, nails biting skin. She focused on breathing, counting silently, anything to keep her thoughts from drifting backward into locked rooms and whispered prayers that never reached heaven. Elias stepped closer to the edge of the pulpit, his eyes scanning the congregation. For a fleeting moment, they met hers. It was brief, almost accidental, yet her stomach tightened. His gaze held recognition, and beneath it something colder. He looked away, just as quickly resuming his sermon, as if nothing had passed between them. Clara thought of the promises he had made in hushed tones, promises wrapped in scripture, and concerned she remembered believing him because belief had been easier than doubt. Now sitting beneath the stained glass saints, she felt anger coil beneath fear. It surprised her with its heat. She wondered if anyone else could sense it, if betrayal had a smell or a sound or a color that bled through her skin. She imagined standing up speaking the truth, aloud watching the piece fracture. The fantasy was brief and terrifying. Her life outside these walls waited for her, fragile and exposed, and she knew how quickly judgment could destroy it. Silence had protected her before. She clung to it now, even as it suffocated her. The organ swelled, filling the room with solemn music. Voices rose together, unified, and blind Clara stayed, seated, unmoving, feeling like an intruder among believers. Her pulse thundered louder than the hymn, warning her that this calm was temporary, and whatever waited beyond it would demand a price she could no longer avoid. As the final hymn began, Clara reached into her purse, intending to leave early. Her phone vibrated once, sharp and insistent. The screen lit up with a single message from an unknown number. Her breath caught as she read it, every sound around her fading into silence. "We need to talk. Today." Her hands shook as service continued around her. Clara did not leave the church right away. She sat through the closing prayer, phone burning in her purse like a secret that might scream if ignored. When the congregation finally stood, she followed, moving with them as if pulled by habit rather than choice. Outside, sunlight felt harsh, exposing, and she lowered her head as people exchanged smiles and polite blessings. The drive home passed in fragments. Red lights, passing shops, a siren somewhere distant. The message replayed in her mind, each word pressing harder than the last. "We need to talk. Today." She knew who had sent it. Elias always wrote that way, when urgency hid behind calm authority. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel as fear blended with a familiar, unwanted pull. At home, the house greeted her with silence. Mark's shoes were by the door, but his absence felt heavier than his presence. Clara placed her purse down carefully, as if it might explode, and walked to the kitchen. The clock above the sink ticked loudly, counting something she could not see. She poured a glass of water, drank, then poured another, unable to swallow the tightness in her throat. Their marriage had once been ordinary. Quiet dinners, shared bills, conversations about nothing important. Somewhere along the way, distance had settled between them like dust. Mark worked late more often. Clara stopped asking questions. Loneliness had crept in softly, disguising itself as independence. She wondered now if Elias had sensed that weakness, or if she had offered it willingly. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Elias's name. Seeing it spelled out made her chest ache. She did not answer. Instead, she sat at the small dining table, memories unfolding without permission. His office smelled faintly of incense and old books. The way he listened, leaning forward, nodding, making her feel chosen. He called it guidance. She had called it care. The door opened just after noon. Mark stepped inside, loosening his tie, pausing when he saw her sitting there. "You're home early," he said. His voice carried suspicion, disguised as concern. Clara forced a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Church ended sooner," she replied. The lie tasted thin, but held. They ate lunch together in near silence. Mark scrolled through his phone. Clara watched his fingers, steady and unaware. Guilt pulsed through her, sharp and rhythmic. She wondered what he would do if he knew everything, if love could survive truth, or if it would rot instantly under the weight of it. She looked away before her thoughts betrayed her. When Mark left for work again, Clara exhaled like someone released from underwater. She stood, paced, checked the door twice. Her phone buzzed once more. A new message appeared. "Please, it's important." The word important carried a warning. She typed, erased, then finally replied with a single question. "Where?" The answer came quickly. "My office. Before evening service." Her heart thudded. That office had once felt safe. Now it felt like a trap, closing slowly still. Part of her wanted answers, wanted acknowledgement, wanted something that might make the sleepless nights stop. She dressed carefully, choosing neutral colors, armor disguised as modesty. As she left the house, she felt watched, though the street was empty. On the drive back to the church, her thoughts turned darker, circling fears she had tried to ignore. The itching to fatigue, the doctor's vague questions she had avoided. She felt a chill crawl up her spine, warning her that faith had become something dangerous now. Parking behind the building, Clara sat for a long moment, engine off, breathing shallow. She did not yet know the truth waiting for her inside, only that whatever Elias planned to say would change everything. With trembling resolve, she opened the car door and stepped out, unaware that the secret she was about to hear was already poisoning her life. Clara stepped into Elias's office with the uneasy feeling that she had crossed a line she could never return from. The door closed softly behind her, sealing them inside a room heavy with incense and silence. Sunlight crept through half-drawn blinds, cutting the space into pale stripes. Elias gestured for her to sit, his face calm, almost tender, as if nothing between them had ever broken. "You look tired," he said gently. The words pierced her. Clara's hands rested in her lap, fingers intertwined, trembling despite her effort to stay composed. "I've been sick," she replied. Her voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Elias nodded slowly, concern settling over his features with practiced ease. He asked careful questions, ones that seemed thoughtful, pastoral. Yet something in his eyes stayed guarded. She told him about the doctor, about the test she had delayed out of fear, about the shame that burned every time she imagined explaining herself. When she finally said the word syphilis, it landed between them like a dropped glass, fragile and sharp. Elias inhaled, then exhaled, his expression tightening just enough to notice. "That's serious," he said, "but you shouldn't jump to conclusions." Clara stared at him, disbelief creeping in. She reminded him of their meetings, the nights he called prayer sessions, the intimacy he had sworn was sacred. Her voice cracked as she spoke, emotion breaking through restraint. "You were the only one," she whispered. "You know that." Elias stood and walked toward the window, turning his back to her. For a moment, she thought he might confess, might show remorse. Instead, his shoulders stiffened. "You're emotional," he said quietly. "Stress can cause symptoms. Fear can twist perception." He turned back, his gaze firm now. "We have to be careful with accusations." The dismissal struck harder than anger. Clara felt something inside her collapse, a fragile hope she had carried into the room. She realized then that he would never take responsibility. The realization spread slowly, like poison, seeping into every memory she had of him. His kindness, his guidance, his love, they rearranged themselves into manipulation. She left the office numb, her legs carrying her without instruction. Outside, the late afternoon air felt thick, oppressive. Driving home, her mind replayed the conversation relentlessly. Each word sharpened into evidence she could not ignore. The doctor's questions echoed louder now. Her body was betraying her, marked by a truth Elias refused to acknowledge. That night, symptoms worsened. Fever crept along her skin, and exhaustion pinned her to the bed. Mark slept beside her, unaware, his steady breathing a cruel contrast to her racing thoughts. Clara stared at the ceiling, counting seconds, imagining the infection spreading unseen. Fear turned inward, fermenting into anger, then into something colder. Over the next days, confirmation arrived. The test results were undeniable. Clara read them alone in the clinic hallway, hands shaking as words blurred together. There was no mystery anymore, no doubt to cling to. What Elias had given her was not love, not faith, but something irreversible. A poison gift wrapped in trust. She returned home hollowed out, grief settling deep in her chest. Shame followed closely, whispering that she deserved this for breaking sacred vows. Yet beneath the shame, another feeling grew stronger. Rage. It surprised her with its clarity. For the first time since the affair began, her thoughts sharpened instead of spiraling. Elias called that evening. She watched the phone ring until it stopped, then rang again. His messages were measured, cautious. "We shouldn't meet again," one read. "This situation is dangerous." Dangerous. The word ignited something final inside her. He was protecting himself now, abandoning her to carry the consequences alone. Clara stood in the kitchen long after midnight, lights off, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. She thought of the sermons about accountability, about sin demanding reckoning. Her reflection in the dark window looked unfamiliar, eyes harder than she remembered. In that moment, an idea surfaced, quiet and terrifying. If Elias believed silence could erase what he had done, he was wrong. Clara realized the truth would come out one way or another. And as her fear slowly gave way to purpose, she understood that what had been taken from her would not be the only thing lost in the end. Clara carried her new resolve like a hidden bruise. It ached constantly, reminding her of what she knew and what she refused to say. At home, she moved carefully, measuring every word, every glance, as if her life were balanced on glass. Mark noticed the change immediately, though he could not yet name it. He watched her from doorways and mirrors, from the quiet spaces between conversations. Clara slept less, ate little, and startled at small sounds. She flinched when the phone vibrated, then pretended nothing was wrong. Mark told himself stress explained it, but doubt crept in anyway, patient and persistent. One evening he asked, "Are you sick?" Clara hesitated before answering. "Just tired," she said. The pause stayed with him long after the words faded. Days passed under a strange tension. Clara attended church again, returning home pale and distant. Mark noticed how she avoided his eyes when Elias's name came up in conversation. He remembered how often she used to speak about faith, about guidance, about feeling seen. Now she fell silent, retreating inward, guarding something he could feel but not touch. Late one night, Mark woke to find her missing from bed. He heard the faint glow of light from the living room and followed it quietly. Clara sat on the couch, phone pressed to her chest, tears streaking her face. She did not hear him approach. When he spoke her name, she nearly dropped the device. "I couldn't sleep," she said quickly, wiping her cheeks. Mark nodded, pretending to accept it, but the image burned itself into him. The distance between them widened. Mark began noticing patterns he had ignored before. Clara stepping outside to take calls, locking the bathroom door, deleting messages with frantic precision. Suspicion sharpened into fear. He wondered if there was another man, another life he had somehow missed. One afternoon, while Clara showered, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Mark tried to ignore it. Then it buzzed again, and again. The name on the screen stopped his breath. Pastor Elias, the same man who shook his hand every Sunday, who spoke of loyalty and truth. Mark stared at the phone as if it might explain itself. His heart pounded as he picked it up, fingers numb. The message preview was short, restrained, devastating. "We need to talk. This can't get out of control." The words felt deliberate, rehearsed. Not spiritual, not innocent. Clara appeared in the doorway, hair damp, eyes widening as she saw the phone in his hand. For a moment, neither spoke. The air thickened with unspoken truths. Mark looked at her, really looked, and saw fear layered beneath exhaustion. "Who is he to you?" Mark asked quietly. Clara's mouth opened, then closed. Silence answered for her. Mark placed the phone back on the counter as if it burned him. He did not shout. He did not accuse. The calm frightened her more than anger ever could. He turned away, pacing, jaw clenched, piecing fragments together with painful clarity. That night, they slept on opposite sides of the bed, inches apart but worlds away. Mark stared at the ceiling, replaying sermons and smiles, wondering how deeply the betrayal ran. Clara lay rigid, knowing the truth was cracking open faster than she could control. By morning, Mark had made a decision. He would confront the source, and when he did, nothing would remain hidden in the dark. Clara did not know that Mark had already decided to confront the truth. She only knew that the walls were closing in, and silence was no longer an option. By evening, Elias's final message arrived, brief and commanding. "Come tonight, after service. We need to settle this." The word "settle" echoed in her mind like a threat disguised as peace. The church after dark felt unfamiliar. Lights were dimmed, pews empty, echoes lingering too long. Clara entered through the side door, her footsteps cautious, as if the building itself might judge her. Elias waited in his office, lamp casting long shadows across his face. He closed the door behind her, the click loud in the quiet. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice shaking. "You insisted on answers," Elias replied calmly. "I'm giving them." She stood instead of sitting, arms crossed tight against her chest. The room smelled the same as always, incense and old paper, but now it made her nauseous. "You ruined my life," she said. The words surprised her with their strength. "You gave me this, then you abandoned me." Elias sighed, rubbing his temples as if burdened by her pain rather than responsible for it. "Clara, you're framing this wrong. What happened between us was mutual. You came to me." His tone softened, deliberate. "You were vulnerable. I helped you. Help." The word cut deep. "You used me," she snapped. "You hid behind faith." For the first time, his composure cracked. "Lower your voice," he said sharply. "Do you have any idea what you're risking?" He stepped closer, eyes darkening. "If this gets out, it won't just destroy me. It will destroy you. Your marriage, your reputation." Fear surged, followed by anger hotter than she had ever known. "You don't get to threaten me," she said. Her hands trembled, but she did not step back. "I trusted you. You preached about accountability." Elias's expression hardened. "I won't confess to something that can't be proven," he said. This conversation never happened. He reached for the door, signaling the end. Something inside Clara broke. Years of restraint, shame, and fear surged upward. "You don't get to walk away," she said. Her voice was louder now, echoing off the walls. "You don't get forgiveness without truth." Elias turned back, anger flaring. "You're unstable," he said coldly. "And if you keep this up, I'll make sure everyone knows it." He leaned in close. "No one will believe you." The threat lingered between them, final and absolute. Clara felt herself shrinking, then hardening. In that moment, she understood there would be no justice here, no mercy waiting to be given. Only silence, enforced by power. She left the office shaking, tears blurring her vision as she stumbled into the empty sanctuary. The altar loomed ahead, symbols of grace mocking her pain. She sank into a pew, hands over her mouth, stifling a sob. The confession she had hoped for was dead. In its place, something darker took root. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Clara stood beneath the church steps, staring up at the building that had once saved her. Now it felt like a monument to lies. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mark appeared, unread but heavy with meaning. She did not open it. As she drove away, resolve settled in where hope had been. Elias believed he was untouchable. He believed silence would protect him. Clara realized, then, that if truth would not come willingly, it would have to be forced into the light. And somewhere in the darkness behind her, Mark was already moving closer to the same door she had just closed. The night after the confrontation, Clara slept in fragments, waking to shadows and half-formed prayers. By morning, resolve had cooled into something precise. She stopped waiting for apologies and began measuring possibilities. Truth had failed her, leverage would not. She cleaned the house with ritual focus, scrubbing counters, aligning chairs, erasing signs of weakness. In the quiet, she replayed Elias's threats and Mark's unread message. Both pressed from opposite sides, narrowing her choices. She decided to control at least one thing. Clara mapped Elias's routine the way she once memorized scripture. Office hours, choir practice, evening service. She remembered which doors stayed unlocked and when the cameras blinked to maintenance mode. Observation calmed her, turning fear into structure. If power protected him, timing might undo him. She tested small acts first. A visit during daylight, polite and brief. A question asked of a volunteer, casual as gossip. No alarm sounded. The church breathed on, unaware. Each success steadied her hands, taught her the weight of patience. At home, Mark hovered like a storm on the horizon. He spoke carefully, eyes searching. Clara answered gently, offering partial truths that satisfied nothing. She hated the deception, yet it bought time. Time, she told herself, was mercy. One afternoon, she returned to the clinic for medication. The nurse explained schedules and side effects in a neutral voice. Clara listened closely. Responsibility anchored her. She would not disappear into hysteria. She would act, and then she would endure the consequences. The idea arrived without drama. Not revenge, not spectacle, but exposure shaped as inevitability. She would place Elias where his authority was weakest and his audience strongest. She would let his words trap him. The plan required stillness, not rage. Clara wrote notes, then burned them. She practiced conversations in the mirror, trimming emotion, sharpening facts. She chose clothing that blended in and shoes that would not echo. She memorized exits. Preparedness felt like prayer. On Saturday night, she packed her bag with ordinary things and one object she hesitated over before including. Its weight reassured her, a reminder that certainty could be carried. She checked her phone. No new messages from Elias. One from Mark. "We need to talk." She turned the screen face down. Sleep came briefly. Before dawn, she stood at the window, watching the streetlights flicker off. The city exhaled. Clara inhaled, counting to 4, steady and slow. Tomorrow will be Sunday. By the time the bells rang, the plan had settled into her bones. Whatever followed would no longer belong to fear. It will belong to choice. She rehearsed contingencies, imagining interruptions and failure. If Elias denied her again, she would remain calm. If Mark arrived early, she would speak plainly. If fear surged, she would breathe through it and proceed. Control lived in preparation, not outcomes. Saturday afternoon, she visited the church once more, unnoticed among cleaners and volunteers. She traced the aisle with her eyes, noting sight lines and sound. The pulpit stood higher than she remembered, a stage that magnified confidence. She tested a pew, listening to its creak, then moved on. Back home, Clara washed her hands until the water ran cold. She folded laundry with deliberate care, grounding herself in small order. When Mark called, she let it ring. She was done negotiating her courage away. As night settled, she set her alarm and laid out clothes. She whispered a promise to herself, not to be brave, but to be honest. Outside, clouds gathered without rain. Inside, Clara closed her eyes, knowing the next morning would demand everything she had prepared. Somewhere, bells were already rehearsing in silence. Clara felt the pull of witnesses and judgment, the certainty of a room that would listen. She turned on her side and slept at last, aware that dawn would bring her face to the light. It would be a Sunday no sermon could soften or delay anymore. Clara woke before the alarm, the plan humming beneath her skin like a second pulse. She dressed carefully, choosing the clothes she had laid out, neutral and unremarkable, a disguise made of fabric. In the mirror, she practiced the smile she would wear, soft and attentive. It looked convincing enough to fool strangers. It did not fool her. At church, she moved among familiar faces, accepting greetings, returning nods. The building smelled of polish and hymnals. Volunteers passed with clipboards, and children whispered as they were guided to their seats. Clara felt herself split into versions. The woman who belonged here and the one counting exits, sight lines, timing. Both walked in step. She took her usual place near the aisle. From there, the pulpit framed the room like a promise. She folded her hands, steadying their tremor. Around her, faith assembled itself with practiced ease. She wondered how many masks filled the pews, how many mirrors reflected only what people needed to see. Elias arrived late, drawing glances, then smiles. He wore authority as naturally as breath. Clara watched the congregation soften toward him, watched trust bloom on command. She kept her gaze lowered when he passed, aware of the heat in her cheeks. The plan required invisibility. The service began. Music rose and fell. Readings were shared. Clara matched the rhythms, standing and sitting with everyone else, blending into the choreography. Her thoughts stayed sharp. Count the minutes. Note the doors. Breathe. Mark slipped in just before the sermon. Clara did not turn, but she felt him, a presence tugging at the back of her mind. The knowledge tightened her chest. She had imagined this moment and accepted it. Still, the reality cut deeper. She pressed her feet into the floor until the feeling steadied. Elias spoke about truth as a discipline, about humility as strength. His voice filled the room, smooth and confident. Clara listened for cracks and found none. She wondered if performance had replaced belief long ago, if sincerity was simply another tool. As the sermon continued, she scanned the faces around her. A woman dabbed her eyes. A man bowed his head. Children fidgeted. The ordinary tenderness of it made Clara ache. She felt the urge to protect them from what she knew, from the knowledge that faith could be bent to harm. Her phone vibrated once, subtle. She did not look. The plan did not allow for distractions. She kept her gaze on the floor, letting the words wash over her. Forgiveness, accountability, consequences. The language pressed close, almost intimate. When the final hymn began, Clara rose with the others. Her heart hammered, but her movement stayed calm. She sang softly, just enough to be part of the sound. The mirrors of the room reflected devotion back at itself, multiplied and unquestioned. As the hymn ended, Elias stepped forward again, hands raised. Clara felt the moment approaching, the narrowing of time. She adjusted the strap of her bag, aware of its weight. The object inside remained hidden, a promise and a warning. Elias invited the congregation to bow their heads. The room complied, a collective surrender. Clara did not bow. She looked straight ahead, breathing evenly, her resolve hardening into clarity. Behind her, Mark shifted. Ahead, the pulpit waited. The masks were set, the mirrors aligned. Clara understood then that the next moments would belong not to planning, but to action. And once begun, there would be no gentle way back. She steadied herself, recalling every rehearsal, every quiet vow. The plan narrowed to a single corridor of choice. If she hesitated now, the truth would dissolve again into rumor and doubt. She shifted her bag against her hip and waited for the pause she had measured. The room held its breath. Somewhere, a door creaked. Somewhere else, a child laughed, unaware. Clara fixed her eyes on the pulpit and let the moment arrive. When Elias lowered his hands to speak again, she knew the sermon was no longer his to control, and the next seconds would decide what justice looked like in public light. She inhaled, counting, steady, ready, as the sanctuary tilted toward revelation and the final sermon began, before everyone listening. The sanctuary seemed to shrink as Elias lifted his hands again, commanding silence with a practiced ease. Heads bowed across the room, a field of submission. Clara stood among them, the only one still looking forward, her breath slow, her mind startlingly clear. This was the pause she had measured, the moment when attention gathered and nowhere else could hide. Elias began to speak about surrender, about releasing burdens into God's care. His voice softened, drawing the room closer. Clara stepped into the aisle. The movement was small, but it cut through the stillness like a blade. A few heads lifted. Elias faltered for half a second, recognition flashing before discipline returned. "Clara," he said gently, smiling, "is everything all right?" Her name echoed. She felt the weight of witnesses settle around her. "No," she replied. Her voice carried farther than she expected. Murmurs rippled. Elias's smile tightened. He gestured for calm, reaching out as if to guide her back into place. "This isn't appropriate," he said. "We can talk later." "Later is how you survive," Clara said. She reached in her bag, not for the object, but for her phone. The screen glowed as she raised it. "You taught us truth matters. So listen." She read aloud, steady and precise. Messages, dates, words he had written, stripped of scripture and care. The room shifted, confusion turning to unease. Elias's face drained of color. He stepped toward her, lowering his voice. "Stop," he whispered. "You're hurting people." "You hurt me," she said louder now. "You used faith to take what you wanted. And when it poisoned me, you threatened silence." Gasps broke the quiet. Someone stood. Someone else prayed under their breath. Mark's voice rose from the back, sharp and disbelieving. "What is she talking about?" Clara did not turn. She could not. Elias raised his hands again, panic slipping through the calm. "This woman is unwell," he said. "She's confused. Please sit down." The lie landed wrong. Clara felt it then, the shift she had hoped for. Doubt cracked the room. She reached into her bag and closed her fingers around the weight she had carried. Not rage. Resolve. "Confess," she said. "Right now." Elias lunged. It happened too fast to name. A shout. A scuffle. The congregation surged to its feet. Clara stumbled back as his hand grabbed her wrist. The object came free by instinct, driven by fear and memory, and every night she had begged for accountability. The sound was wrong. Dull. Final. Elias staggered, eyes wide, disbelief etched across his face. He fell against the pulpit, then to the floor. Screams erupted. Someone rushed forward. Someone else ran for the doors. Clara stood frozen, the object slipping from her fingers, clattering across wood. Time fractured. She saw Mark pushing through the aisle, his face pale. She saw blood spreading, impossible and real. She heard her own breathing, loud and uneven. The sanctuary no longer felt holy. It felt exposed. Hands grabbed her arms. Voices shouted commands. Clara did not resist. She looked at Elias on the floor, at the life draining from the man who had promised salvation. She felt nothing like victory, only an immense, crushing quiet. Sirens approached, growing louder, filling the space where hymns had been. Someone covered a child's eyes. Someone prayed out loud. Frantic, Clara's knees weakened, but she stayed upright, anchored by the certainty that silence was finally broken. As officers entered, Mark reached her, stopping just short of touching her. Their eyes met. In his, she saw horror, grief, and something like understanding. It undid her. They led her away down the aisle she had memorized, past faces she would never forget. The mirrors shattered, the masks fallen. Behind her, the pulpit stood empty, authority bleeding out onto the floor. Outside, the air felt cold and clean. Clara closed her eyes as cuffs clicked into place. The plan had ended. The consequences had begun. And as the church doors closed behind her, she knew the truth would keep unfolding, one confession at a time, in rooms far darker than this sanctuary had ever been. Sirens faded into a dull echo as Clara was guided into a narrow room washed in fluorescent light. The night pressed against the windows, distant and unreal. She sat with her hands folded, cuffs cold on her wrists, breathing through the tremor that still rattled her bones. Time no longer moved forward. It circled. An officer asked her name. She answered. Another asked what happened. Clara spoke slowly, choosing facts over fury. She told them about the messages, the threats, the sickness she carried. Words felt heavier here, stripped of performance, weighed for truth. Each sentence peeled something open. Across the hall, Mark waited hollow-eyed. He replayed the moment again and again, searching for the second when he might have stopped it. Guilt tangled with anger, love with disbelief. When an officer finally spoke to him, he nodded, answered, and asked one question he feared. Was she alive? The answer did not settle him. Evidence accumulated with a patience Clara had never known. Phones were cataloged, screenshots verified, a timeline assembled itself, indifferent to prayer. Elias's office yielded records that did not preach forgiveness. There were other names, other silences. The story widened, refusing to remain singular. Clara listened as investigators spoke, their voices steady, their eyes careful. She felt herself becoming an object of procedure, a file, a case. Yet beneath the labels, she felt lighter, as if something corrosive had been cut away. Shame loosened its grip. Truth, even now, did not ask permission that a doctor examine her before dawn. Clinical words replaced dread. Treatment was outlined, prognosis explained. The infection had a name and a plan. And for the first time in months, Clara believed in a future that did not end at a church door. She thanked the doctor, surprised by her own steadiness. News traveled faster than compassion. By morning, the story had fractured into headlines and whispers. Defended Elias out of habit. Others wondered aloud how long the lies had lasted. Faith bent under the weight of facts. Mark watched the coverage alone, coffee untouched. He recognized none of the people on the screen, least of all himself. When Clara's name appeared, his chest tightened. He wanted to reach for her, to ask how to survive this together, and did not know if together still existed. In the interview room again, Clara was asked about intent. She closed her eyes and answered honestly. She had wanted truth. She had demanded accountability. She had not imagined the sound, the fall, the blood. The admission sat between them, plain and irrevocable. An investigator slid a folder across the table. Inside were statements from others, hesitant and incomplete, but real. Clara felt the room tilt. She was not alone. The relief was sharp, edged with grief for what had been endured in silence. When they finally left her alone, Clara rested her forehead against the table. Exhaustion washed through her, deep and cleansing. She did not ask for forgiveness. She asked for time. Outside, the sky brightened. Mark stood, decision forming with the dawn. He would tell the truth, all of it, no matter the cost. He would not protect lies. As the sun rose, the case moved forward, gears turning without mercy. Clara lifted her head, knowing the next chapter would not be about what happened in the sanctuary, but about judgment, consequence, and the long, uncertain shape of justice. Yet uncertainty lingered, threading through every answer. Lawyers would argue motives, timelines, credibility. Experts would parse trauma and intent, weighing harm against fear. Clara understood that telling the truth did not guarantee being believed, only being heard. She prepared for nights of waiting, for rooms where silence returned with different rules. Mark, too, would face questions, his loyalty examined, his patience tested. Together or apart, they would step into a process that demanded endurance. As doors closed and opened again, Clara steadied herself, accepting that revelation was only the beginning, and that what followed would ask her to survive scrutiny as relentlessly as she had survived secrecy. Justice would not be swift, but it would be public, procedural, and unforgiving, demanding patience, courage, and resolve daily. The courtroom smelled of paper and old varnish, a place where time felt deliberately slow. Clara sat beside her attorney, hands folded, eyes forward. The cuffs were gone, replaced by something heavier: expectation. Every movement was observed, every breath recorded in memory. This was no sanctuary. This was judgment without hymns. The prosecution spoke first, careful and methodical. They told the story in clean lines, removing emotion where it complicated clarity. A woman betrayed, a confrontation, a death in public view, intent framed as inevitability. Clara listened, recognizing the shape of her life, simplified and sharpened for understanding. It felt accurate and incomplete at once. When the defense rose, the tone shifted. Trauma entered the room, followed by power and manipulation. Messages appeared on screens, timelines bent to show coercion, fear, threats. A doctor testified, clinical and calm. A counselor explained how silence grows when authority demands it. The words did not excuse what happened. They explained how it became possible. Witnesses followed. Congregants spoke of shock and disbelief. A volunteer described closed doors and canceled meetings. Then Mark took the stand. He spoke slowly, refusing drama. He described the woman he married, the distance that grew, the moment suspicion turned to certainty. He did not defend the act. He defended the truth. Clara did not testify. The decision weighed on her, but she trusted the record. Silence here was strategy, not surrender. She watched the jurors instead, measuring faces for signs of certainty. Some avoided her gaze. Others did not. She accepted both. Arguments closed. Days passed. The waiting stretched her nerves thin. At night, she dreamed of bells and echoes, of a pulpit without a voice. Morning brought coffee. She could not finish, and news she could not escape. Opinion hardened outside the room, split cleanly into condemnation and sympathy. Neither offered comfort. When the jury returned, the air tightened. The foreperson spoke, voice steady. The verdict landed with a weight that bent the room. Guilty, with mitigating circumstances. A sentence shaped by law and mercy, bounded by years rather than life. Clara closed her eyes. Relief and grief collided, inseparable. Afterward, reporters gathered like moths. Questions flew. Clara said nothing. Her attorney guided her through the noise. Mark waited by the steps, uncertainty written across his face. They stood a few feet apart, neither crossing the distance. Some wounds did not close on command. In a quieter hallway, Clara signed papers, fingerprints pressed into ink. Consequences became concrete. She felt the future narrow and clarify at once. There would be loss. There would be survival. Justice, she realized, was not rescue. It was structure. As she was led away, Clara glanced back one last time. Mark met her eyes and nodded, small and sincere. It was not forgiveness. It was recognition. The door closed. The sound echoed, final and procedural. In the weeks that followed, appeals were discussed, sentences formalized, routines established. Clara learned the language of endurance. Letters arrived, some cruel, some kind. She read none immediately. She focused on treatment, on breath, on days marked by effort rather than fear. Justice had spoken. Ruin had not won, but it lingered at the edges, waiting to be managed. Clara understood now that truth carried costs beyond revelation. The final chapter would not be written by courts or crowds, but by what she did with the time that remained, and how she learned to live inside the truth she had forced into light. Clara sat by the window of her small apartment, morning light falling in soft stripes across the floor. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the weeks and months that had transformed her life. Inside, silence stretched, heavy but steady, like a pause after a storm. She traced the edge of the table with her fingertips, thinking of what had passed and what remained. Mark had visited briefly after the trial, bringing quiet words and an uncertain presence. They had not spoken of forgiveness, not fully. But in his eyes, she saw something that resembled understanding, a recognition of the complexity, the danger, and the heartbreak that had shaped her choices. They had left the conversation with no resolution, yet with a fragile truce, as if the act of survival itself demanded distance before reconciliation. Clara reflected on Elias, now gone from their lives in more ways than one. His absence left a space wider than she anticipated. She remembered his voice, the sermons, the warnings, the veiled authority, and she shivered. But the fear that had once governed her body, the uncertainty that had shadowed every glance and every message, had begun to dissipate. Where terror once resided, resolve now took its place. She had forced truth into the light, and that act, though devastating, had freed her in ways she could scarcely articulate. The evenings were the hardest. Clara sometimes walked the streets slowly, past buildings she had once passed without notice. Every corner held fragments of memory, every shadow a whisper of what could have been avoided. Her mind played scenes repeatedly. The confrontation in the office, the final sermon, the fall, the silence of witnesses, the chaos in the sanctuary. She carried each in quiet containers, separate, distinct, manageable only because she had survived them. Her phone buzzed unexpectedly. A new message from an unknown number glowed briefly. The truth always returns. Clara smiled faintly, a bitter, ironic gesture. She did not reply. Some words were meant only to remind, not to engage. Some reminders were necessary for caution, not action. She pocketed the device, returning her gaze to the window. Treatment for her illness progressed steadily. The symptoms that had once gnawed at her confidence and sanity had begun to fade. Each improvement, each small victory over her body's betrayal, felt like a whisper of renewal. She measured herself carefully, mindful of the fragile balance between the past and the person she was becoming. Night brought shadows closer, yet Clara no longer feared them. She lit a candle, watching the flame tremble and settle. It mirrored her own heartbeat, fragile, deliberate, alive. The lessons of manipulation, betrayal, and power had not left her unscarred, but they had taught her endurance, clarity, and a hard-earned patience. She breathed deeply, feeling the weight of truth press against her chest, heavy but honest. In the quiet, she allowed herself reflection. The court, the trial, the consequences, all were part of a larger reckoning that extended beyond judgment. Justice had a shape and a limit. Life did not. She understood now that she would live with shadows, but they would no longer control her. She had stepped into darkness and emerged not unbroken, but unbound. As the candle flickered low, Clara whispered to herself, a promise carried in silence. To survive, to endure, to remain vigilant, and to face each day with the careful honesty she had demanded from others. The weight of the past would not vanish, but it would no longer define the contours of her life. She was free to inhabit the space between caution and courage. Somewhere far away, echoes of that final sermon lingered in memory, in news reports, in fragments of conversation. But in the calm of her apartment, Clara understood that the end of one chapter was never the end of all chapters. Truth, once forced into the open, continued to resonate, shaping the world quietly around her. She exhaled, listening to the silence, knowing that the last whisper had passed, but that its presence would always guide her, steady and unwavering, into whatever days remained.